Welcome back to the Oak Grove's Behind the Season series. This week, we're going to a place where only a brave few dare to play each summer. Prepare yourselves for Tales from the Pit!
I'm Melissa Dull, one of the newest board members and playing in the woods since 2018. I'll be your host this week. Jenny will be back next week. Or will she? Anyway, if this had been our regular season, tonight would have been the opening night for 9 to 5. So what better way to celebrate the key elements of a musical than to tell you about our pit and our musicians? Let's take a look at the process of putting together a pit and the factors that make being a member of a Grove pit a bit more challenging, interesting, exciting than most other venues. When a musical is proposed to the Grove board, the director must have a musical director, MD, on board as part of the production team. An MD's responsibilities include, but are not limited to, teaching vocal music to the cast, finding musicians to play in the pit, getting music to said musicians, running music rehearsals, and directing the pit during show runs.
The biggest challenge most MDs encounter is a fear that we all face at some point in our lives: commitment. It's occasionally harder to get musicians to commit to playing a Grove show than shows for other venues, because being a Grove pit member means that you're dedicating at least 5 hours per evening for 10 evenings straight to playing in the elements with the critters. And we're not just talking about the ones singing on stage. Like every other element of a Grove production, every member of the pit is a volunteer. The joy of being a pit musician is that the time dedicated translates to lifelong friendships and quality music making.
Okay, musicians have committed to playing the show. Actors have learned their songs. It's Tech Week and time to load in. But before we get to set up the instruments, we've got to set up a system that is not typical for a Grove show: the sound system. Actors are not mic'd at the Grove. However, the pit is often blocked from any visual contact with the stage by the flats that Jenny told us about last week. And with several instruments playing, it can be hard for the MD and musicians to hear the actors' voices. So we set up a monitor system to aid in that endeavor.
Remember these two? They helped with this. They also help set up the sound system. Microphones are strategically placed on either side of the stage. They're not wireless, so the cord from the mic on stage left is run under the stage through a piece of PVC pipe to connect to the soundboard and monitor speakers on stage right. The monitors help the instrumentalists hear the vocals so that everything stays together in perfect harmony. Once the sound system is up, the instruments, chairs, stands, and stand lights can be loaded into the pit. This space wasn't always here for us. According to Don Rowe, pianist and music director, the pit was added somewhere around 1997. Prior to that year, it was a platform in the same space that was not connected to the stage. Before the advent of keyboards, a spinet or upright piano was lifted onto the platform, causing it to sag. To top it off, the floor would also shake as musicians played. Now, we have a space just as sturdy as the stage. It is often covered with a tarp or canopy. Elbow room depends on instrument requirements for the show being produced. Everything is set up and ready to go. Time to start running with everyone all together. This is when the fun for musicians really starts, because we have a chance to see how our individual parts come together with the cast to help create the show.
Just like actors, pit musicians have their own language, and we're not just talking about the music on the page. Here are some key terms that are helpful to know if you're going to play in a pit, or at least allow you to carry on a conversation with a pit musician. Vamp. Music to be repeated under dialogue or action that holds the song in place until it's time to continue on singing. The length of the vamp is flexible from run to run, unlike a repeat. Repeated music that happens a set number of times each time the show is run. In this case, 3. Cue line. Just like actors have cues to start or stop action and or dialogue, pit musicians listen for cue lines to start and stop playing. Hold. An immediate pause or stop, usually called to fix something on stage.
For every full run and show, the sound system and pit must be set up. Even though we have a canopy, a rain plan is always in place. If a show is moved to the pavilion, the pit typically sets up in the shed. J. David Clatterbuck, music director, recalls the final run of Forever Plaid, in which the rain was particularly heavy. Don Rowe was on keyboard, and Mixon Derricott was on bass. These two musicians were actually playing on stage with the actors. The performance was moved to the pavilion, and as the storm continued, Don and Mixon had to keep moving into the driest parts of the pavilion to protect their instruments. Actors are not the only ones plagued by bugs. Musicians need to see their music to play, and stand lights attract all kinds of winged and leggy and non-leggy creatures. Drummer Dalton Ford had a spider friend show up every evening of My Favorite Year, at the same time every night to say hello. According to Don Rowe, an 8-foot black snake made an appearance in the pit, falling from the trees above during Canterbury Tales in 1990. After each performance, instruments, chairs, stands, and sound equipment are moved back to the shed to avoid wind and water damage. Microphone cables are bagged for the same reason.
After the final run, as the actors strike the set, the pit members strike the pit, dismantling their show home, where they've spent over 50 hours over the course of Tech Week and runs. We say goodbye to friends who have become family, and hope to have the chance to play, literally, under the oaks again soon.